many different types of martial arts. Started out in karate and found his way to Aikido. We have that in common, by the way, even though I'm still a very young student. So he would like to talk to you about Aikido, and I'm sure there will be chances for questions and answers. And please, Sammy, can say, come up and censor.
Well, good morning. Thank you for having me, and thank you for inviting me. It's an honor. Listening to this speech before, you welcoming new member into the Rotary. It's very similar for us in Aikido, whereas it's the dojo is a small community, but we are part of a larger community globally. Right? It doesn't matter where you go in the world, you'll find an Aikido studio somewhere, and we may not speak the same language very often, but we speak this common language of Aikido. So we get on the mat with the same gi on, and we all look the same and understand each other. So that's quite unique in that way, to find friends all over the world. First of all, my accent, right? So you probably think, where is he from? I was born in Mauritius, small little country, African country, located south of Madagascar, between Africa and Australia, and spent my young years in Mauritius, then migrated to Australia. Well, that's 30 years ago, maybe it's a bit more than that.
This is an island nation, right?
I'm sorry?
This is an island nation?
Yes, it was British colony until '69, and then became an independent nation. 1 million people, not many, with bilingual. People speak English, French, Tamil, Urdu, Chinese. It's a very multicultural country. Then that's where the dodo bird comes from. If you ever wondered, right? The dodo bird lived in Mauritius, and that's the only country where you found a dodo. Anyway, I digress. So that's my accent. Speak French, English, and Australian. So if you don't understand. I came into martial arts was at a very, very young age, age 10, 12, actually before that. I always tell the story in class where as a little kid, I was 7, 8 years old, standing next to a swimming pool, and this very big kid, I think he was even growing a beard, came to me and just rushed me and pushed me into the water, and I couldn't swim. It was quite scary because the water was quite deep, and I went under. I remember looking up, going, couldn't get up. An adult came up, aunties or something, grabbed me by the hair and pulled me out, and everything. And it just happened that my cousin, who was married at the time to someone from Belgium, he was the 7th dan in karate, and he watched the whole thing. He came to me, he goes, "Why did you just stand there?" I was shocked. You know, the kid came and pushed me. Didn't know anything else to do. So he taught me a way that he said, it doesn't matter how big they are, how small they are. If you step out of the way, they'll fall in the water and you'll be okay. So he taught me this technique. I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't need to be big. And I became hooked. You know, starting going to movies, watching Bruce Lee movies in the 70s, mid-70s, and coming out of the movie theater thinking, you are Bruce Lee. That was invincible. And my dad took me to a martial arts school, karate school, started training in karate, and became a black belt and competed in karate for a few years. So in Australia, that's where I found Aikido. In Mauritius, I can't remember any Aikido in Australia. So, funny thing, how I found the dojo was on the job. So I was in law enforcement. I was in law enforcement. I got transferred to a very special unit called the SES, Security Emergency Response Group, where the K9 units were there. We did special transportation of very dangerous people around the state of Victoria. And one of my colleagues had bruises on his arms. He goes, "What happened to you?" He goes, "Oh, that's Aikido." Aikido? What is that? And it's ribs and holes, and it sounds interesting. So I went to the dojo. in Melbourne, I had to wait to get the introductory class. It was only done on Tuesdays, every other Tuesday. So I waited my turn, and I was very anxious to see what it was all about. And did the first technique, and I loved it. Very first technique, same principle of moving out of the way, and controlling someone. Went to the front desk, lady there by Lima Guana. She was a Nikan, or second year backup at the time. Older lady, too. I said, I want to join. She goes, go home, think about it, and come back. No, I really want to join. No, you don't have to go home, think about it. I was very insistent, and guys, so she signed me up, went home, and long story short, I became one of the instructors. When I got my second degree black belt, it's a natural progression in Aikido, where you start teaching. By teaching, that's how you own techniques. That's how you become more aware of your own techniques, if they work, if they do not work. If you can't teach it, then you don't really understand the technique. And that's a natural progression. At the same time, we're passing it down to the junior people, what you've learned. So it's a natural progression, very nice way to hand down what you've learned. At the same time, getting back by training with someone who doesn't know what they're doing, and having to teach it, so. After that, I went to Japan. Long story short, I went to Japan and told my sensei, my teacher, I want to go live in Japan for a year and experience life at the Founders Dojo in a little town called Iwama. Anybody been to Japan here? Yeah? There you go. So Iwama, Ibaraki Prefecture, or north of Tokyo. Went there, 0 Japanese. And airline lost my luggage. I had no money, I was really poor. At the airport, this Japanese gentleman came to me and said, what's going on with your luggage? Opened his wallet, gave me 3,000 yen out of his wallet, airline person. And no bureaucracy, go to these counters. And he said, no, here, we'll look after it. So I got on train, went to Iwama. The funny thing is, what I remember is there was English on the train, English and Japanese. And the further away you get from Tokyo, it starts stopping, Even the katakana that I could read was gone, it was all kanji. I'm like, what? Okay, just follow my heart there. And I got to Iwama at night, little train station, no street lights. Goodness. Asked around, dojo, Aikido. Oh, Aikido. And they know exactly what Aikido is. So I got to a dojo and met up with Saito Sensei. And it's one of those dojos where you don't just show up. You have to get a letter of introduction, and they have to know you're coming. Otherwise, they say go home. It's as simple as that. They don't accept you in. And that's an old tradition from way back. So I started my training in Iwama. That was quite interesting and very revealing, because as a Westerner, you go to Japanese society, you get immersed in that culture. Things are different, you wake up. I used to wake up, make my coffee, and get comfortable. No, you wake up, go walk the dog, clean, and get ready for practice. And everybody eats together for breakfast. Right? Everybody eats together. And you finish your food, you don't just get up and get more toast, which some people sometimes mistakenly do, because you get the look and then the speech afterwards. So I was really happy very happy place. Very simple, bicycles everywhere. You walk down the street and people putting garbage out. Everything about it was amazing. People say good morning, hi gozaimasu, and move around. Everybody's happy. So, and the training was hard, very, very hard. In the sense of the locals there and the Japanese, they will test you. That's just part of the culture. Testing not in a mean way, by holding you strong and making sure your techniques are honest. They attack you honestly. And your techniques have to be honest as well. Otherwise, it's useless, right? So That's how it came about. In 2002, I was back in Iwama, and Saito Sensei, who was a direct student of the founder, was very ill at the time. You know, he got sick and became, he had bone cancer and became paralyzed, waist down. So he stopped teaching. I was there with him during that time, just before he passed. And that was an experience that I feel very privileged to have had. If you're in the martial arts world, if you're in the Aikido, especially in the Aikido world, that name is a big name, you know, for all these years of dedication to Aikido. I remember sitting next to his bed, talking to him. He was doing most of the talking, ordering, you know, us around. There was me and the head of Shideshi, who was a living student. He was translating most of what Sensei was saying, because Sensei spoke very distinct dialect, very small town, and very hard to understand with my very, very limited Japanese. So he gave me some very good advice. You know, he looked at me and he said, keep practicing basics. He would say, what was done this morning? And then tell us what to do the next day. And things to do around the dojo, the cleaning up, cutting trees and all that. And shortly after that, and while I was there, you know, I was passing away, all these old students from around the world, who I only read about it in books and magazines, most of them from the US, and they came to pay their respects to Sensei, to basically say goodbye. And I got to meet Bill Witt Sensei, who was the 7th Dan, who's the first American or Westerner to become a living student with Saito Sensei in Iwama. So the first person he saw when he went there was O Sensei sitting on a chair. That was the first class he saw him. It was impressive. He's a very big American guy, you know, and he stayed there. So he was responsible for building that bridge between Iwama and the rest of us. So Witt Sensei came, Goto Sensei came, Pat Hendricks, all these big names. I was like, wow, this is overwhelming. Took photos, and I told Witt Sensei, actually, I'm moving to the US next year. And he said, please come in. So I came here with my wife. She did a PhD in Melbourne, Australia. She works in oncology. She does cancer research. And she told me at the time, she goes, San Francisco is the place to go to do my postdoc in biotech. I had never been to the US. Right, so I said, okay, no worries. But the early contact, because I had Aikido, right, to come here, and some people I knew, so straight away I said, let's go to dojo, put the luggage down, let's go to dojo. Which we actually did, right, driving to Sonoma. I got invited to teach a seminar at the Sonoma University up there. That was one of my first experiences teaching here, because I'd just come back from Japan and met all these people, and then we spoke that common language of Aikido. It was great. I felt very welcome, and opened my school that same year in 2002. 2002. That's a long time ago now, 13 years ago. Found a little gym and said, okay, I'm going to start teaching. Did put flyers out at Genentech, where my wife was working, where I also got recruited at Genentech to work in the security department. And got my first student, second person came. And then we got this little group of 12, 15 people. Maybe 12 of them kept following me around from place to place because the gym closed. So we had to find a new home. Went to another location in San Francisco. That place was a bit dodgy, you know, we were there for a short time. Then went around a couple locations, ended up in Burlingame at Gold Medal Martial Arts in Burlingame. Went to Herb Perez, who was the owner. I didn't know who he was. I went in, spoke to the staff there and said, okay, who's in charge? You know, how about renting some space? I said, oh, you need to speak to this guy. So I went to Master Perez, who was actually the first gold medalist in Taekwondo.
First what?
Gold medalist at the Olympics in, I think, '92. He won the gold medal for the US and came back here and started his dojos, opening Taekwondo school. Very successful schools. I met him one-to-one. He didn't know me at all. Right? Never heard of me. I'd never heard of him. Told him what I wanted to do. He goes, yeah, sure, no problem. You know, what days do you need? You know, I said, wow. That was the extent of the conversation. You know? Went, started teaching in Burlingame. Then he opened a branch in Belmont. That's where you came, right? In Belmont? Or
No, something.
San Mateo, okay. I went to Belmont for a year or two, a couple of years. Did taught there, then the class size started really growing because I started putting more time into letting people know that where we were and who we were. And we got to a good size. I thought maybe it's time after all these years to find a location, a permanent location for our school where I can actually instill the traditions and the culture that goes with Aikido. You know, and I'm putting our photos up, you know, the founder's photo, and all these things that the traditional things that goes with martial art like Aikido. And found a place in San Mateo, 9th and B Street. Watched they remodeled it. It's like all the pieces started falling together. And today the dojo is a full-time dojo in San Mateo, and I feel very fortunate to have students, you know, like Sebastian here and others join us. It truly is a family dojo. It's a community where we really support each other in a sense of when somebody passes away, which just happened just recently. 2 of my students lost people very close to them. They found a place to go to find that support. And even last night, we having a couple of drinks. One of my students just came back from Mexico. Her mom passed away. She was really distressed about it. And she told me that another student had sent him this wonderful email. He had lost his grandmother 2 months prior to that. And she was really touched and said, wow, you know, who is it? Is that crazy? She'd never met him. She'd never met him. She got that email. He's one of my black belts. And that made a difference in a grieving process. So that's the story of the dojo itself. We have like 40 kids, 30, 40 kids, and just about, I don't know, 25 adults, 30 adults that train on and off. Yes, sir.
What are the age levels of this? Or are they levels by age or by degree?
That's a very good question. You know that many Aikido schools will tell you the minimum age is 7 years old and up. But I got talked into teaching younger kids. Younger kids started coming at 4 years old. Sometimes they don't diaper. No diapers, it's fine. And then I started assessing them. I realized that kids are a lot smarter than we think they are. You know, we make assumptions. We talk to them like little kids, but sometimes they actually can surprise us. Like really, not really. Yeah, sorry. And 5 years old and up, we have 5 years old up to older students that have maybe in their 60s, 70s. Not training at the moment, but that's the age. And I've just read, just before coming here a couple of days ago, this gentleman, 80 years old, just got his black belt in Aikido. And I was like, wow, that's fantastic, because Aikido can be done at any age.
So you can't go
So
there.
how is Aikido different than other martial arts that we heard
Yes, let's go into that right now.
Okay.
So, first of all, I keep saying martial art, but Aikido is, my sensei always say, Aikido is not a martial art, it is a Budo. You know?
Sorry
It's,
for the question.
Budo in Japanese, it's a way of life. You know, it not only makes you physically strong, but makes you mentally strong as well. Because on a mat, you find yourself facing yourself in a mirror type of thing, where your, I joke about it, your demons come out, and also the good of you comes out on the mat as well, because it's just you. In Aikido, on the technique wise, in driving practice karate is very head on, right? I hit you, you hit back. You know, it's whoever's stronger may win the match, or is luckiest. In Aikido, the size doesn't matter. You know, you don't collide. With Aikido, the three kanjis, the blending of energy. You know, I is the house, or the blending. Ki is energy, or Chinese qi, and go the way. The way of blending energy is in the sense of, if you come at me, I will step out of the way or use that energy to my advantage to control. Does that answer your question?
about? I think so.
Okay. Maybe we can demonstrate a couple of those techniques.
Can you and Sebastian get a little...
WrestleMania?
Yes.
The origin of Aikido, does it go way back to the original
judo or whatever the first martial art? Does it trace back that far? How did it branch off and so forth? I guess that's the answer.
Right.
My question.
They all today, everything is branched off of, and when you find the common source, we jiu-jitsu. So Aikido jiu-jitsu was practiced back in the 1800s or before that, way before that. This family, Takeda family, and this older gentleman, Sakafu Takeda, in the 1800s, early 1800s, used to walk around Japan and find jewels, test his skills, and kill many people doing it the way. Very nasty old man. And the founder of Aikido, Morihiro Ueshiba, in the 1800s, he was also studying many different martial arts. He had his skill, swordsmanship, all kinds of things, and found Sakafu Takeda. And learned Aikido Jiu-Jitsu at the time, very severe form of Aikido, where in those days your life would really depend on it. So that's the source of Aikido comes. So O-sensei, we call him O-sensei, grandmaster, went to this teacher, then he got the license to teach Aikido Jiu-Jitsu. Then he became, Jiu-Jitsu became Aikido Jiu-Jitsu when he took it over, Aikido Jiu-Jitsu. And then when he went to Iwama and retired there, first the name of Aikido was used then. So he modified the techniques over the years for many, many reasons. One, safety, so people didn't get hurt or killed. Two is where you would find that when people started coming who were much bigger, certain techniques wouldn't work if you only rely on strength. So he modified those to make it more fluid. And within Aikido itself, today's Aikido, there are many different styles. Aikido, what we practice, what we call the Wama style, is where the founder, where he developed Aikido. And then there's different, at the headquarters in Homburg, you'll find it's more like a dance, where there's a lot of flowing movements and not many basic techniques. What we do is very broken down into pieces. You do a technique, you just don't go and do it fluidly, but it's broken down into steps. And these are the basics that we really hone in our style of Aikido. Yes. Anybody's ever practiced any martial arts here?
Well, when I was I went to a private girls' school, and in college our physical education is Aikido, and I really loved it. So, yeah, I've been looking for Aikido here, but I haven't seen anything around, but now you say that there is, so I'm gonna check it out.
That's my plan now, by the way, to recruit everybody.
I have a question. You were a black belt in karate, as some people say, but how, and then you went to Aikido. So at what point did you decide, or why did you decide that Aikido was better than karate?
Because of my job. So this, in dealing with very bad people, and sometimes having to restrain them, you can't always hit. I've been in many bad fights during those days where you're gonna win anyway. There's more of you. You have more tools, but I never felt good about it. You go home and you feel dirty. You don't sleep. The hitting and being able to control someone, that was my biggest challenge. And when I found Aikido, I found I can actually manipulate your joints and control you, no matter how big you are, and put you, in a safe place without having to hurt you. It's painful, but you don't get hurt. When I release, it's gone. All the pains. Sebastian can attest to that. It's painful, but nobody gets hurt. Sometimes injuries happen. Like any sports. When you do it all the time, there's a chance that you might get a strain here and there. But that was what really attracted me about Aikido, that blending philosophy and being able to work. And that's the physical part, right? We talk about the physical part, but the skill to be able to diffuse situations without having to put your hands on someone, that was my biggest wins, right? It's always been my biggest wins. When I left law enforcement, I went into private security in Melbourne. And I actually work the doors, right, as a bouncer. Terrible word, right, a bouncer, number here. And look at my size. You guys come to me and very often, a few drinks into them, a few of them, say, sorry, can't come in. And they look at me, they look around and say, really? There's two ways, right? Sometimes they will say, this guy's crazy, we'll walk out of here. Or they might actually, try something. But it's always been, I've always, one of the best lines that, my boss is watching me. Cameras here. They're watching me right now. Come back later or whatever. I walk out with them and shut the door and they're outside. So that's that Aikido practice without having to get physical. That's always been amazing. Today I use it. I still work at Genentech after 13 years. I'm a senior project manager. And having to negotiate sometimes, to get budget for your project. And, people sometimes clash, right? They will come and clash. And you find a way not to clash with them, find a common ground. Then before you know it, you walk out with the funds and you say, what happened? This. And personality is the thing with Aikido is you always work with someone different. And techniques will never feel the same when you practice it from one time. The next time you practice the same technique. Different personalities, different sizes. Sebastian is a giant. Sometimes you have little people. You have to adjust your technique. And you have very often adjust your attitude when you practice as well. Before coming here this morning, I got an email from a student that said he's going to stop training. And incident that happened in the dojo last week. When you practice Aikido, it's a mutual agreement. I'm going to tell you what technique I'm going to do. And Sensei used to say, "Sunao ni keiko shite kudasai." Please practice with a good mind, with a good spirit. When you practice Aikido, not competitive spirit. If I tell you, we're going to practice grabbing my arm and do a technique. If you change your grab or start pulling or pushing or use something else, then I'm going to have to change my technique to make it work. That's when people get hurt. People get hurt, it becomes a competition. It's no longer keiko or practice. It becomes competition. And that's not Aikido. That's what happened in the dojo. We changed techniques and we had to do things differently to show that, if you change this, there's a consequence to that. Then it's not practice. Nobody's happy. You leave the dojo feeling bad. We're constantly doing that, reassessing our attitude, on the mat, saying, okay, what am I doing to cause this? Instead of saying, don't do that. Why is this person reacting that way towards me? Usually it's you have to look at yourself and say, it's me causing that reaction. Right? That's what the best benefits that I've gained from practicing.
Is conditioning and diet also brought into play? Is everyone as trim as you look?
No. Actually, funny thing is, a few years ago, I did have a little, some extra padding, and my wife looked at me and said, "Oh, you're getting the sensei belly." And, I was like, what? Where's my bicycle? Start training. But you do lose weight on the mat when you practice all the time. People come on the mat, because you're constantly going up and down. You're getting thrown, getting up, all the time. When you start teaching, you have to be careful, because you're no longer practicing. Many people fall into that habit of getting engaged on the mat, and then once when you start, getting extra weight.
Jared wants to know how much is the beginner's class?
Is there a trial?
How much? There is no beginner's class. There are no beginner's classes. The first class is free, so you come in and try it.
First class
So there's no excuse. I hear all sorts of excuses, right? Phone calls, say, I really want to do the martial art. I want to go. Yeah, sure, the dojo is here. First class is free. You don't need anything special, just show up. Okay, no worries, I'll be there. Very often they don't, right? It's the people that show up, that just show up, and I want to practice, and they're ready, and then they come and practice.
So what? So I found this picture. Can you explain this? Is this what we're doing to Derek?
That's called pain.
This technique is actually Kokyunagi technique. So we can do it right now.
Sebastian, yes.
I'm not volunteering for anything, so I quit volunteering.
And the big falls that you see, the flips, you know, they look all tricky and all that. But it's a way to get out of sometimes very painful joints being put on and unwinding from it. That's another skill. The person being thrown is usually is called uke. You know, ukemi is to receive the technique, and the person doing the throwing is sometimes called nage or shite. Shite is the person who finishes the technique. The difference here between jiu-jitsu or MMA, what you see today, MMA is competition, right? MMA is competition. And very often you see them on the ground grappling, and whoever finishes this way or puts it painful lock, they end up on the ground, and they both tangle together. Aikido is different. The person will end up on the ground, but the other person will be on top, controlling that person, being able to pull out a cell phone or whatever. Look at your surroundings to see whatever danger. Aikido is to your question again, from the samurai. So it's always being surrounded by multiple attackers or enemies, and turning your body is, very effective to see what's around, not focusing on one person. So yeah, this is a beautiful picture.
The whole picture, yeah.
Very cool. I don't know if I missed anything here. Any questions? Or anybody wants to what it feels like? Yes.
Will volunteer Dan?
I'm sorry.
Will volunteer Dan?
He's a small guy.
Oh, you are
Yes. Sir.
You mentioned that you went to a dojo, but you're not to go there unless you have an appointment or something. Is that with all dojos?
In Japan.
Oh, in Japan.
In Japan. In Japan, yes. So traditional dojos, yes. You need a letter. Even we're going to Japan in April with some of the students, and I had to send ahead of time the head teacher there a letter to say I'm bringing my students over, and they have to say yes. Usually they will say yes once you've had that connection, but you can't just show up. Yeah, the thing is the Western society, right? The instant gratification mind is a mentality. I find that very, in the school, I find that people who don't stick around is usually because of that. They get frustrated because they cannot do technique, because it's not easy, and they resort to force. And then they leave the dojo. It's not something I'll just hand it to you. It's a lifetime. It's a Buddha. It's a way of life. You learn not only the physical part, that's fine, but working together with other people. You bow. You come in the dojo. The first thing you do is bow at the door, and for me, bowing is leaving my social identity outside. Everything stays outside. You bow in and you enter your own a different space. You put a dogi on, everybody looks the same. You have a brain surgeon, you have a cop, you have a scientist, you have a lawyer. Everybody doing the same thing, feeling stupid. Everybody's feeling just as stupid as the rest of the person, in the sense of, I can't do this, I don't know how to move my feet. I don't want, where's my left foot again? Move your left foot, I've had this done, that's... The mind-body coordination is not there. So that's the beauty of doing something like this. Everything gets connected together. Yeah.
We would love to have you speak longer, however,
No problems.
we have an 8:30 rule. If you would be so kind as to stick around.
Absolutely.
We'll end the meeting, and first of all, we would like to have you come back when we can talk to you.
Absolutely.
If you would be so kind, but I have to go ahead with formalities here.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Sylvia, you just passed out armbands. Would you like to explain those?
So
I just want to say thank you again to the Rotary Club, the Sunrise Group, for supporting Feel Like a Girl, providing